listening to Phuket's Live 89.5.
Here we are, Nick Anthony on Going Green, show number 85, and a very good afternoon, Phuket. I'm in the studio with Kerry Leach. Kerry, welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Good to meet you.
Very nice to have you here in the studio today, and I do apologise for listeners who were listening this afternoon to our Box of Neutral show. We did have a system error, and the system was down for a while, but we've got some great tunes coming up for you today, and indeed some wonderful news. Firstly, Kerry, let's hear a little bit about you. You've been in Thailand for 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. Came here in 2003 and started with the diving. I was diving already, but did my instructor course out here, actually with Oceanic Dive Centre in Qatar, and then continued all the way through, worked on liverboards for a while around the Andaman Sea, Burma, obviously the local dive sites as well, before I came dive centre manager at Sabakwa in Karon.
Very good. You were saying that your father is an instructor.
He is,
so
yes.
So you learnt at an early age. Were you pushed off the boat? Was it baptism of fire?
Well, he did it the right way. He took me on holiday to the Maldives and said, look at all these wonderful corals and fish, and let me do my tri-dive there, and then made me do my licence course actually in England, where it was slightly different, but still hooked.
Okay, very good. I a bit like you. I did my first dive when I think I was 9 years old, and I did it in a current that must have been about 12 or 13 knots.
Wow.
Almost pitch black. It was in Melbourne in winter.
Yeah.
And it was one of these drift dives where at that speed you sort of look at something ahead and you're paddling as quickly as possible to get above it as you go through.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Superman feeling, just hang in the current, let it go.
It is like that. Now, speaking of currents, before we get into the show, I was talking, I met with Kerry and the Go Eco guys on Thursday night in Patong, getting ready for this big dive cleanup on Thursday. And the current, they were saying, was so strong that off Qatar Beach, where they've got some big concrete mooring blocks, actually the current's been so strong that it's moving these concrete blocks. Yeah,
the concrete blocks have been placed by, I think it was Phuket Marine Biological Centre or something like this. And there was actually one in Bay 3 also off of the coast of Ratchayai. And it's quite a shock as a diver when suddenly there's a concrete block coming towards you. It's like, okay, so we need to build that into our projects in the future and realise we need heavier concrete blocks or something to that effect.
Indeed. I think must have been 3 years ago they put off Bangta a number of helicopters and some old planes, which was supposedly to basically build some fake reefs and to provide something of interest in Bangtao to go look at.
I dived that. It was good while it lasted.
And they also went with the current.
They did indeed. Yeah, it got quite broken up by the current in the end.
Well done. Well, we're here today to talk about Tuesday's event. This is now your second Go Eco event. And Kerry, just give us a very quick rundown now. How many participants are you anticipating? How many boats? And a couple of details on timing.
Okay, well, some people may remember the event we organised last year, the 30th of September 2012 event. That was absolutely fantastic and way beyond what we thought it would be. It was recorded as the largest underwater cleanup in the whole of Southeast Asia. But somehow we've managed to do it a little bit bigger this year. We applied to the Guinness Book of Records to see if we could make it a record breaker as such. But you can't break records on number of participants, apparently, for an event like this. So unfortunately, that wasn't possible. But we do have around 2,000 volunteers, participants this year, not just divers. We're not going to throw 2,000 people into the water. We have all kinds of government volunteers that are helping with registration in the morning. We have a lot of school kids involved. There's people on the boats, divers and non-divers alike. We've got some speedboats taking people to the beaches. We're covering 3 islands. There'll be Coral Island, Ratchayai Island and Ratchanoi Island. And we're taking out 13 boats from the dive companies themselves, but a total of, I think, 15 boats from various tourism companies, be it snorkeling companies or dive companies. And just recently, in the last week, Nico Marine, one of the big snorkel companies here in Phuket, they jumped on board as well to provide 1 speedboat to Coral Island, 2 to Ratchayai and 1 to Ratchanoi, so we can get people to the beaches and things like that.
Very good. So how many scuba divers are you anticipating this year?
Around 500. I'm confirming the lists over the weekend. I have a meeting after this show is finished just to try and confirm some numbers. But certainly by Monday we'll have an exact figure. And then Tuesday we go.
if Guinness did indeed accept your nomination, I'm sure 500 is probably going to be the biggest in the world, is it?
It's not bad, it's not bad, so we'll see.
I was looking at even some of the beach cleanup statistics on records, and actually the numbers appear quite low, so that might be something for us to consider in the future. And even with Tuesday's event, it could well be a world record for both underwater and beach cleaning at the same time.
Sure, and something like that, it just raises awareness massively on a scale that, we can't imagine. We're doing quite well now. I mean, I'm here talking on the radio to try and get as many people involved and to spread the news about it as much as possible. We've also been in Phuket News recently. And yeah, we're just trying to get the word out there, the Thai channels, Channel 3, Channel 7, things like this. So it's not just the English-speaking Farang news, if you like, it's also the international news.
Very good. Now we're going to continue this discussion in a few minutes and indeed talk also about the beach cleanups that are taking place across the island on Tuesday. The first one kicks off at 10 a.m. at Patong, and then at 4:30 in the afternoon there are cleanups across basically most of the West Coast beaches with big crews in Mai Khao, Nai Yang, Nai Ton, Bang Tao, Kamala, and indeed down in Kata and Kata Noi. They're all confirmed. So we'll continue with this discussion. Now, to find out more about Go Eco Phuket, you can go to Facebook, take a look at Go Eco Phuket, or indeed you can send an email to goecophuket@gmail.com. But stay tuned. I'll be back in just a moment with more from Kerry Leach talking about the Go Eco cleanup on Tuesday. Great news for Phuket.
Phuket's Live 89.5.
And welcome back to the show. This is Going Green, show number 85, and a very good afternoon to you out there in Phuket. I hope you are enjoying the afternoon and it's not raining where you are. I can see a little bit of blue sky poking through out here in Phuket town. And the good news is I'm in the studio with Kerry Leach from Sub-Aqua, and Kerry has organised a Go Eco underwater cleanup on Tuesday in conjunction with an island-wide beach clean. So we've been finding out some details about that. We've just heard that there's this year over 500 divers are now confirmed and over 2,000 volunteers that are going out on boats and will be cleaning up Ratcha Yai, Ratcha Noi, Coral Island and the beaches around Chalong Bay. Kerry, that's really great news. You've got a much bigger turnout this year even than last year.
Yeah, it's really good news. I think we started the awareness campaign, if you like, last year, and so people do know about us now, and yeah, it's great to have so many people involved this year as well.
And last year, in terms of volume, you collected a massive amount. I had the pleasure of joining you on the boats and had a great day out. But the volume of trash was simply amazing.
Yeah. Back then as well, actually, I mean, there was 15 tons of rubbish collected last year. There probably won't be as much this year, hopefully because we're preventing some of it being being there in the first place, but also there was one thing we knew about last year, which was a 4.5 ton fishing net that's somehow been abandoned off the coast of Ratcha Noi Island. So we worked for 2 days actually for that one. We brought it up on the cleanup day, but we were 2 days working with the Thai Navy, and also we pulled in a fishing boat to help us, and they came along and helped us. So it was all hands on deck to pull up this 4.5 ton fishing net last year.
Wow. Last year, were you finding the garbage was mostly consumer based? Was it boats, fishing boats, pleasure boats tossing stuff over, or was it stuff that was sort of coming in from the ocean? And
no, there's a lot that's coming from tourism and from consumers here.
Preventable sources.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot from fishing boats as well. You know, the batteries for these squid boats with the bulbs, they just toss the batteries over the side of the boat and things like that. Crazily enough, as we were bringing this fishing net up, these guys from the fishing boat helping us, one of them had a can of Coke and tossed the can of Coke in the water while we were there cleaning the ocean. It's like, no, this is what we're talking about. I
love your story about the guy with the cigarette who threw it off, and you asked for the GPS coordinates to go back and collect it for the next the next debris. Shock the guy. Let's talk a little bit about some of the supporters that have been helping you for Tuesday. It's a massive effort. I know you've worked unbelievably hard with your team, and you've got some great dive masters and some dive captains and sponsors behind you. Let's take a look firstly at some of the government organizations. Your principal supporter has been...
the principal supporter through this is probably actually the Royal Thai Navy. They've been really pushing this. It's the 3rd Command Unit down in Cape Panois. They've been massive in supporting us. And then obviously like the Vice Governor of Phuket himself, he's pulled in Rawai Municipality that are providing breakfast to all of the volunteers in the morning for registration, which is fantastic. And then we can't really do this without the help of the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources, who are putting a number of boats out for our safety on the day. And then also Phuket Marine Biological Centre, who actually involved because they have the international cleanup card that they use to collect data for the rubbish, and this will be submitted to them after the event, so we make sure that they have that for their research. And then the Marine Police, Marine 5, and actually Search and Rescue are also involved on the day. A massive support network we have from the Thais, which we're really grateful for.
How many, remind me, how many dive boats are going out?
In total, there are, hang on, I've just added a few more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 actual dive company boats going out. And then there's, like I said before, the various speedboats and Set Off, which are a catamaran company that have recently started as well. They're joining.
Very good. And your sponsors with the dive companies, and I know you've got some others that have been sponsoring mesh bags and cutters and indeed even fuel. That's it, yeah. I mean, if I can just give quick mention to the companies who are providing their boats on the day. There's All for Diving in Patong, Andaman Ocean Safaris, Dive Asia, Jolly Roger, Kamala Dive Centre, Scuba Cat, Seabees. Seabees actually have 2 boats in the water on this day. Sea Fun Divers, Similin Queen, Joy Dive and Aqua Centre. So really that is all the boats that operate in diving in Phuket will be out on this day, which is fantastic. Then as you said, I mean, we lost our budget just a couple of weeks before the event. The government budget kind of fell apart, which was a bit of a shock. So then we had to work to try and find some sponsors. And it's amazing. We've got a lot of local businesses and also international organisations that have come forward to help us out to fuel the boats, actually, so that we can go out to these places and clean up. So if I can just mention big thanks to Paddy. Most of us are Paddy dive centres on the island. Paddy gave enough money actually to cover 5 boats for the day, which is half the boats pretty much are being sponsored by Paddy on this day. Then we have All About Scuba Diving. If you have a look at All About Scuba Diving, they do some great diving t-shirts actually, and sell those on the island and provide information about Thailand's diving on their website. There's International Business Association of Phuket. I went to their meeting last night and thanked them personally because we very much appreciate them being on board. Scuba Schools International, similar to Paddy, it's another diving organisation. They weren't on board last year, but we managed to pull them in this year, which we're very grateful for. So SSI, Best Western Alamanda Laguna are the only hotel boat sponsor this year, so thank you to them. The Rotary Club. Femke, of course, yes. Over there. She's been great with the Bangtao Green Club and helping to organise that recently. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think that's who we were in contact with, so that was great. Rotary Club of Patong, we gave a presentation to them and they jumped on board. They were also on board last year, so it's nice that they're back. And British Business Association of Phuket confirmed just a couple of days ago as well. And then the Hilton Phuket Arcadia Resort and Spa, they provided all of the facilities free of charge to us for our press conference, which was a week or so ago. So that was fantastic again, because it's all of these things that you need for the event that cost money, and we want to use any money we have to go into the cleanup, resources, things like this. So Hilton have also been a good supporter over the last 4 years of beach cleans down in Karon Beach. They do, yeah, because my dive centre is actually on Karon Beach, Sabakwa, we're right there, so we go across and give them a hand wherever we can. Arrow Media, they've done banners and advertising, so anyone travelling actually from Shillong Circle over to Qatar and Karon in the next week or so, you'll see a massive banner has just been erected there with Go Eco Phuket on it, and all of our sponsors, so that's great. Asia Dive Travel are actually a Malaysian company, but they do sell
diving tours in Phuket, and they wanted to give back to Phuket, which I thought was fantastic. So they actually sponsored to provide gloves to all of the volunteers, cloth gloves that we can use again for future cleanups, which is fantastic. Kiwi divers down in Shillong, they provided cutters that are specific for the divers to take down to cut fishing line and fishing net. Aquamaster, thank you to Aquamaster for supplying mesh bags. They're a big supplier of diving equipment down in Shillong. Blue Age did online web marketing. And finally, we must also mention Da Vinci, who have put out their catamaran for the day as a VIP press boat. So thank you very much to Da Vinci there. I might try and get on that one.
Very good. That sounds a good idea. I should try and get on that one as well. Tell me, how's the weather report looking for Monday?
So far, so good.
Okay.
We have a certain amount of contingency. I mean, obviously, if it's unsafe to go out, we won't go out. I mean, this is something we ultimately do have to say. But if the weather gods are in our favour, last year it was amazing. It was meant to be raining, and we had the flattest, calmest, sunniest day. Even if it's cloudy, though, even if it's raining, we can still go. It's the wind and the swells that's the problem. And right now, the forecast looks good. So please, everybody, keep your fingers crossed and let's do this.
Very good. Yeah, looking here on the weather.com website, they're suggesting chance of rain only 40% on Monday and on Tuesday. And indeed, wind speed coming down from 18 knots on Sunday down to 13 knots on Tuesday.
We can live with that.
That's okay, isn't it?
Seasickness pills will be provided.
Very good. Well, thanks very much, and big up to all of those sponsors for supporting that Go Eco event on Tuesday. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment with some more news, and we'll talk a little bit about beach cleaning and also about the oceans themselves in terms of the trash, the problems we're seeing, and why this type of momentum is so important for all of us to get behind for the betterment of Phuket. Stay tuned. Nick Anthony here in the studio with Kerry Leach from Sub-Aqua Divers on Go Eco Phuket's Tuesday cleanup. Nick Anthony, I'm in the studio with Kerry Leach, and we're talking about the Go Eco cleanup on Tuesday. Kerry, you've got a fantastic event. I've got to say congratulations again to you and the team for putting such a wonderful effort into what is your second cleanup.
Yeah.
And I know it's always been a big effort, certainly coordinating 2,500 people and 20 boats and 15 different government departments. It's no easy task.
It's also getting the dive centres to work together to organise something like this. I mean, I'm not alone. I'm here speaking to you, but it's all of the dive centres working together to make this happen, and that's quite a feat in itself when you involve the politics on this island.
It is indeed, yeah. It's like the hotels working together with these green clubs.
Sure.
You know, they eye each other as tigers and just as liable to smack each other on the head or poach their staff. And indeed poach their customers. But the collaboration that's coming together for the betterment of Phuket across all aspects of society is really good news. We talked briefly about some of the sponsors and the government departments that have come together. I thought the quotation that was in the Phuket News last week from Vice Governor Somai saying it's not just a matter of how much trash will be collected, but how many people are involved, and the friends who are aware of the event. So it's also about the psychological event. She added that there's going to be lots of children involved as well, which means all the better for the future generation. Tourists do in fact come here for the beauty of the island, and so much of the island's revenue is dependent on its natural beauty and splendour. So raising the awareness of environmental issues and the Diving for Trash initiative on Tuesday will be good for everyone on the island. Raising awareness is a huge part of what you're doing. It
is, yeah. I mean, as an individual instructor and dive centre, we go out, and I don't think there's an instructor, dive master on this island that doesn't take care of the reef when they're diving. If they see plastic on the reef, they'll pick it up, put it in their pocket, take it back to the boat, and make sure it's disposed of properly. And we do this throughout the year. But what this kind of project does is it raises awareness on a much larger scale, so people actually see what we're doing and try and make the effort themselves.
Very good. Now, this being your second cleanup, and being expanded now to include the beach cleanups up and down the west coast, you've over the last year done 3 additional events. You did a Patong cleanup on the 5th of December, a Kata cleanup in March, and a southern cleanup for Earth Day in April. Talking a little bit about, just offline there, about PP and the Similans. Firstly, what sort of state is Phi Phi and the Similans in at the moment, and is there a need to involve a cleanup crew, or are they doing already some good stuff?
Well, the Similans is closed at the moment, so we don't really know. The biggest problem, dare I say it, we have with the Similans is that when the dive centres move their boats out, the fishing boats, if the weather is good, do have a habit of moving in. And it's very, very difficult to police this. I understand that. I'm not getting at the Thai authorities with that. It's difficult. And we do find, the big fish they grow through the season while we're there as divers, and then we go back in the after the low season, and we're back down to the small baby fish clinging to the reef because all the big fish have been fished out. That's a different problem. But in terms of rubbish and debris, we've never really had much of a problem with that in the Similans. I think the Similans National Park do a very good job, actually, of keeping their area clean, because they do have non-divers, snorkelers. They have a very kind of eco-minded, if you like, staff team up there in the Similans, and that's greatly appreciated. It keeps the pressure off of the reef. In Phi Phi, I think they've actually been running some projects of their own, and Go Eco Phuket have no intention of treading on their toes over there. We're trying to help the immediate area around Phuket and where there aren't these kind of initiatives so far. But in diving around Phi Phi, it's okay. It's quite good. So I wish them the best of luck over there in Phi Phi as well.
Very good. You talked a bit about large fish getting fished out. What's the state of Phuket's marine animals these days? Are you seeing many turtles, whale sharks, dolphins?
We do see turtles. There's a lot of turtles out towards Phi Phi. Around the Ratcha Islands, not so much. But out towards Phi Phi, there are certainly turtles there. There's one area that really we call Turtle Bay, because you can jump in and pretty much guarantee turtles there, which is lovely to see. There's the turtle initiatives, obviously, up the island. I think around Songkran they do the baby turtle launching, which is brilliant. I love that. With the general marine life, we do from time to time see leopard shark with a fishing hook stuck in their mouth or something like that. There was a photo went out on Facebook actually a few months ago where a fisherman pulled out a leopard shark, and there was outrage on Facebook, and it had turned out that they did unhook it and put it back in the water. It wasn't like they took it off and lopped its fins off or something. So I don't think it's too much of a threat there. But obviously we don't want them pulling out of the water like that in the first place. I think the biggest problem was things like the abandoned net last year. It was in the news about the turtles getting stuck, things like this. There obviously was a problem. So what we do is if we see a fishing net, something like that looks like an obstruction to marine animals, we try and do something about it. And it was amazing. I think it was maybe about 6 weeks ago now. Somebody brought up in a meeting that a fishing net had ended up on one of our local dive sites, Shark Point, within 48 hours. We tried a 24-hour turnaround. We couldn't quite do it. But within 48 hours, it was amazing to see the response. All the dive centres went, right, let's go, let's get it. And we did. So we can be pulled together at very short notice if need be to deal with that kind of problem.
Very good. The Similans is going to open a little early this year. How many weeks? 3 or 4 weeks earlier than normal, is it? Yeah,
I think the official date of opening is meant to be 1st of November. And I believe there's boats going out around the 10th of October. Of October, yeah. So it will be a little bit earlier. And we were discussing this offline just before. I don't want to give the wrong impression about that. It's not going to put any more stress on the reefs than normal, because actually the weather patterns have changed so much in Phuket. We used to start the season 1st of November, and we used to say that by 15th of May, all the dive boats had to be out of there. That was the period. But unfortunately, in recent years, the low season has been starting a little bit earlier somehow.
Summer season.
Summer season. Sorry, we don't have low seasons here. Green season. Summer season, that's what we're in. But yes, with the summer season starting a little bit earlier, usually in April or middle of April, that's a good 2 weeks or even more, almost a month that were cut out of the season that we usually had. So I think the dive businesses are not really complaining too much about the earlier start, and we certainly don't think it's going to put any more stress on the reef. So no problem.
The weather patterns are certainly have been unusual these last couple of years. We often do boating on the west coast, and in Surin Beach, we used to actually not get any boats that would come over and park permanently until usually about December the 15th, through the early 2000s, up until about 2006. Almost like clockwork, seems like there was a massive storm came through about the 10th or 15th of December, and it was the final one for the year, and then the seas would flatten off, ring the bell, high season, great, go for it, and run it all the way through to April or May, or even end of May. But the last couple of years, it has been getting earlier, and indeed this year we had pretty bad weather, didn't we? All the way through actually March, April, some really big storms came through. And
yet, strangely enough, the first week in October last year, 2012, I was beach diving off of Kata Beach, and it was absolutely wonderful. It was flat calm, and it was clear water. You know, October. This would not have happened years ago.
October was amazing last year.
Yeah.
And it could be climate change. Don't listen to Fox News. All right, stay tuned. Nick Anthony, I'm here in the studio with Kerry Leach, and we'll do a wrap just after this song and talk a little bit about the beach cleaning on a Tuesday afternoon.
Phuket's Live 89.5.
Welcome back. Going Green, Shunaba 85, and I'm in the studio with Kerry Leach from Sub-Aqua Divers, who is organising the Go Eco underwater dive cleanup taking place next Tuesday, leaving early in the morning down at Geelong Pier from 7:30, and the boats will leave at 8:30. A quick update for those who missed the first hour. Kerry has now around 500 divers, which is up from last year. Over 2,000 volunteers involved in cleaning up Ratcha Yai, Ratcha Noi, Coral Island, and the southern area, Geelong area. That's schools, government, and local NGOs and businesses, which is really fantastic. And at the same time this year, they've extended the Go Eco cleanup to incorporate a West Coast beach cleanup around Phuket. So with SEEK, we've been working with Kerry and the Go Eco guys to rally the troops around the green clubs and get people on the beach. So you've got beach cleaning taking place on Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. confirmed in Patong. If you're feeling up and about early in the morning on Tuesday morning, head on down to Patong, leaving from departing or starting at the Loma Park at the Dolphin Park, and two teams will go north and south. So expect a big turnout. And then from there, tide is then on its way in, and at 4:30 in the afternoon, the tide has turned, is going out, and there'll be a massive West Coast cleanup. The main areas which you can take a look certainly on the internet and consider is go to the Green Clubs on Facebook, to which you can now see Naiton, Naithon, Bangtao, Kamala, and Kata Noi. Those four are the key ones which have already started on Facebook, and there are details of their own cleanups and where they're going. But you can just as easily grab a few buddies, grab some plastic bags and some gloves, and head down to your favourite beach and see if you can make your bit to make Phuket a better place. Kerry, before we wrap up on the diving, I just want to ask you, where is your favourite diving spot?
Ooh, local to here. I have a bit of a soft spot for the Plateau, which is one of the lesser dive sites. It's south of Ratcha Noi. It's pretty much the most south dive site you can go to. I'm going to say it suffers from raging current, only that we can't dive it that often for that very reason. But I saw my first manta ray in Thailand there, and I've got many very good memories of diving on that dive site. If you've got experience, it's the most beautiful dive site. It's very nice.
Deep dive?
It is. The plateau on the top is about 11-12 meters, but it can be difficult to stay anywhere near the top when there's current, and then it goes down. I mean, it goes down 60, 70. You can get very, very deep there because south of Ratcha Noi it shelves away into the Indian Ocean here in Phuket. But it's phenomenal. The soft corals on there, and all the corals are intact and beautiful. It's a little bit cooler water, so everything's thriving there. There's some big trevallies on there, groupers, some of the largest parrotfish I've ever seen in my life. I mean, your normal reef fish, but just big. Think everything big, it's there.
That sounds a bit like Palau.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing.
Well, you can contact sub-aqua divers and arrange to go to the plateau. Sounds a great thing to do. Let's talk a bit about coral in this part of southern Thailand. How's the state of coral bleaching this last couple of years? I know we had a very bad one. When was it? 2008, when we had an extremely delayed monsoon period, and the ocean effectively boiled for nearly 2 months.
Yeah.
And we had as much as 70% loss of coral in some places. But there has been, seems quite a lot of coral growth. It's been coming back. But how is the state of Phuket's coral?
It has been coming back from that, actually. We all had huge concern when the corals first went white, and then the next step after they'd bleached was that this algae stuff grows on them, and it just completely suffocates the coral, and then it just falls apart. It's brown, dead coral. It's not what you want to see when you come diving in Phuket, but it's amazing. I was at Recha Yai the other day. I was at Recha Nui on Saturday, and we came across this immense patch of staghorn coral, and I was diving there with Mark, who is currently he will be taking over as manager actually of Sub-Aqua later this year, but he hasn't been diving Recha Nui for a while, and we both went out there on Saturday, and he got so excited, he's banging on his tank and he's like, look, just pointing at the coral, because suddenly there's this new staghorn coral growing, and it's already a few inches long. It's got that blue tinge at the end. It's that proper staghorn coral that we all know and love, that used to be everywhere around Recha Yai Island, Recha Nui Island. And it's definitely coming back. And also, I mean, if you go further south, some of the in Phuket, we don't always think about Koh Ha and Hindeng, Him Wang. After the coral bleaching, we had concern there too. But then there's been this crazy soft coral that's grown down deep. There's a field of soft coral on Koh Ha starting at 20 meters and going down deeper that was never there before. And it's almost as tall as me. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. That wasn't even there before. So it's not like everything's dying. It's just there's new stuff coming. If it's climate change, it's changing. It's changing the way the oceans are as well. And we can only watch and look. But going back to the cleanup, the trash thing is something we can actually do something about. Where we can't do. So we can do very small things about climate change. That's up to maybe the bigger corporate businesses or something like that, or world governments. But everybody can do something about trash and not have it going in the ocean.
We've seen here on the island a campaign against litter. We've seen the government in the last 1 year doing a much better job at cleaning roadsides, which is reducing the amount of trash that goes into the drains and gets washed out to sea.
Sure.
So I think we're seeing, at least from our own experience on the West Coast, perhaps as much as a 30% drop in plastics this year on the beaches. It's quite significant. The fishing fleet remains a little bit of an enigma. It's a black box. There's 2,500 fishing boats on the west coast of Phuket.
Wow.
Most of them dump as much as they can overboard rather than bringing it back. But there is a shift coming. We've been working with one of the fleet owners where we have a pilot program with 100 fishing boats to change their waste policies to bring back what they take out. And that seems to be catching on, actually, I wouldn't necessarily say by wildfire, but there's a burning smell as it goes across the other fishing boats, and there is a change in mentality coming. It seems from those side, talking about recycling stations in the ports, signage. The DMCR actually are very keen to get behind a program to fully put in place a campaign for all fishing fleet owners, and a multilingual campaign, Burmese and Lao and Thai. To try to teach the fishermen about sustainable policy. And of course, a lot of them are not from this part of the world, so it's not seemingly an area they care too much about. They drink their bottles, they throw it over the boat. The captain drinks his Red Bull bottles, tosses it over the boat. Likewise, you say with batteries and bulbs and all the other stuff that we end up collecting on the beaches.
Emroy Hasip.
Emroy Hasip, exactly, M150s. So if we can get over the next year or two the fishing fleet to become more sustainable, particularly with respect to waste management, and at the same time we're tackling this issue on the island, we're tackling this issue with the kids, with education, and local municipalities are much more on top of local beach cleaning, such as in Kamala, which is sponsored by the local municipality, by the Orbitor. last week was the first beach to have 2 full-time beach cleaners put in place.
Absolutely fantastic. Kamala have done a great job with the Green Club there.
And
really
that's sponsored by the businesses, sponsored by the Kamala Green Club, and they're actually paid for by those guys, but hired by the Orbitor. So what we're seeing is a transfer of knowledge to the local government as to why this is critical. And they've now said that they'll take over the budget for next year, and we'll take it over from the private sector. So it looks like next year for Kamala will be the first time that we have actually government-sponsored full-time beach cleaning.
That's great news. Absolutely fantastic news. I think, you can't expect change overnight. Over in Koh Tao, even Dive Tribe have been setting up mooring buoy systems to protect their reefs there. It took them 3 years to get the first project underway, 3 years of work to get it. And sometimes at the Go Eco meeting, dive centres will say, yeah, but, we've said that already and nothing's happening. We've only been established a year. We're moving forward. We are moving forward. Every step is a positive step. It's just a small step towards a bigger thing. And I think you've just got to persevere. And as long as we're moving in the right direction, we're winning.
Kerry, you're a superstar. Well done. Good luck with your dive cleanup on Tuesday.
Thank you.
May the weather gods be with you.
Yes, and I hope the beach cleanups go well for the green clubs as well. Fantastic job you guys are doing with Seek and everything. So thank you.
Good. We're getting there. Stay tuned, Phuket. Beach Cleanup Tuesday, Go Eco Cleanup Tuesday. What's likely to be a world record, although it won't be recognised as such, but the impact on telling people and informing the community is going to continue for many generations. We are trying to make a difference, but it needs your help. Stay tuned. I'll be back in just a moment.
Live 89.5, your island, your station. Feel good.
Nick Anthony back here on Going Green, Shunnam 85. Big thank you to Kerry Leach for joining us in the studio today, talking about the cleanup on Tuesday. What's likely to be Thailand's biggest ever cleanup. And just repeat those numbers, for over 2,000 volunteers, plus the green clubs, which could well be in excess of another 1,000 or 1,500, plus over 500 divers. So a big effort and helping to keep Phuket clean. One of the reasons why we keep our oceans clean, and one of the reasons why we keep our beaches clean, is that litter in the oceans gets eaten by all sorts of marine animals. And the leading a problem with marine trash being eaten is with sea turtles. And we do have a wide range of sea turtles here in southern Thailand. We've got some wonderful groups that have been supporting sea turtles for a couple of decades, including the Phuket Marine Biological Centre in the south, next to the aquarium, that has a sea turtle breeding area. That centre, you can go down, check it out, take a look at the turtles under rehab. There are a number of turtles that are lost flippers, whether they be through being hit by speedboats or more likely caught in fishing nets, and as a result have lost flippers. So there's a rehab centre down there. And there's also a breeding centre where they grow thousands of sea turtles, and every year, in conjunction with particularly Laguna and the JW Marriott, which both have turtle foundations, they do a sea turtle release. Well, there's a new Australian study that's been released this week. It shows that endangered green turtles, in particular, are ingesting more man-made debris, including potentially lethal plastic products, than ever before. These majestic turtles are significantly more likely to swallow plastic than they were in the 1980s. There's a study published in the journal Conservation Biology. The research reviewed scientific literature on the ingestion of man-made rubbish in the ocean by sea turtles published since 1985 and showed that 6 of the world's 7 species of sea turtles have been found to ingest debris. All 6 are listed as globally vulnerable or endangered by the IUCN Red List. Sea turtles, in particular green turtles, and the likelihood that they've ingested debris has doubled over the last 25 years. And it seems that the likelihood of a green turtle, which often can grow to about 1.5 meters and live for 80 years, ingesting debris has jumped from 30% in 85 to nearly 50% in 2012. The research said it was clear that since the first data was recorded more than 100 years ago, the amount of refuse leatherback turtles also had ingested had increased. Plastic products eaten by turtles and other marine life can be lethal, killing them by either blocking their stomachs and starving them or through puncturing their intestinal system. The study said that ingested plastics could also be releasing toxins into the animals either via chemicals in the plastics themselves or which the products have absorbed as they've floated around the ocean. The animal may not die of that right away, but it may impact things like their reproductive cycle, and that has longer-term consequences. What we really need is a large-scale movement to stop debris entering the oceans. The research, which analysed 37 studies published from 1985, reported on data collected actually from before 1900, and it found that turtles in nearly all regions of the world ingested this plastic debris. It's a global phenomenon, and it is an increasing problem. So thanks again to all the beach cleaners on Tuesday and the scuba divers who are trying to keep this plastic out of our oceans and trying to make it safer for turtles, for dolphins, and for dugongs in particular that all ingest these plastics. Just to comment on plastics in particular, Kerry talking about plastics, we were talking about lack of plastics actually coming from other countries. Almost all the garbage we've been collecting here on Phuket, particularly over the last 4 years since I've been tracking it, has all been Thai, with a few exceptions. It seems that down particularly in Katanoi Beach, they get a bit more international garbage than we get up at Bangtao, Surin, Kamala, and further north up at Mai Khao. But certainly in the collection that we've been doing on the west coast and the upper west coast, almost none of it is from Bangladesh, from India, from Indonesia, or from Malaysia. It's all Thai. Now that's very positive to me because it means here in Thailand, we do then have a chance of reducing this dramatically by working with communities, working with local government, working with fishing fleet owners, working with tour boat operators, and it's the work of PADI dive boats, for example, and the SSI dive boats to encourage recycling, waste reduction, and making people more aware. That will help to reduce it. So good news, we're not on a large gyre of debris that sits off Phuket in the Andaman Sea and every day throws it off. We do have garbage comes every day, which is why daily beach cleaning is so important and why the Kamala Green Club have now been so successful at their 2 full-time beach cleaners. I did actually go down to Kamala this morning. I took a photo and put it on my Twitter account. You can follow me at IndigoNick. And actually for the first morning, at 7:30 this morning, I was looking at the beach, and it was low tide, and I couldn't see a single piece of plastic, and that's despite it being on the southern end where Klong is coming out into the ocean, often brings trash from the local community. So I'm not sure if it's just coincidence, but certainly it seems that the Green Club down there is making a difference, taking it out of the high tide mark. Very good news. Stay tuned. This is Nick Anthony. I'll be back in just a moment with some local green news, and we'll take a look at this weekend's edition of the Phuket News for green stories, of which there are many.
Live 89.5, your island, your station.
Welcome back, Going Green, Shunnam 85, Nick Anthony here. Let's take a look at this weekend's edition of the Phuket News for green stories, of which there are many. Firstly, in regional green news, on page 14, there's an article about Thailand's first car ownership scheme. This is a program that was put in place in response, or was extended in response to the flooding that we had in Bangkok, where many of the car companies lost massive amounts of inventory, and in response they put up a first car ownership scheme which sold well over 1 million cars. Well, the news in the paper is that actually up to 200,000 reservations of those new cars are in doubt due to a slowing economy and diminishing consumer spending power. That is positive in some respects, in that it will ease some of the congestion on the roads and the pressure on the roads here on Phuket. I believe the number from memory was around 25,000 new cars came on our roads over the last year, at least not on the roads, but were ordered. And all of us driving around Phuket over the last year have seen a huge impact, partially because of roadworks here in Central, for example, but also simply because of the number of new cars. There's been a call by the Liberal Democrats in the UK, actually, to ban all fuel and gas cars in the UK by 2040. That's the first time I've ever read of any political party anywhere calling for a massive groundswell shift in transportation. It is something that's coming. It's something that's coming very fast, but it's something that's needed. Of course, climate change continues unabated. We've seen over the last week a massive heat wave in China, We continue to see fires in northern Russia, which are extending further north into Siberia, and all over the world, storms, tornadoes, flash floods continue to show that climate change is upon us faster than we expected. Here in Thailand, currently we have a government which is pushing hard, particularly on renewable energy, and also on page 14, there's been an announcement this last week that the Thai government had to spend 80 billion baht, it's nearly $3 billion US, to set up a solar farm in every village in Thailand. This is a one village, a one solar farm initiative. Actually a very smart idea, and it's a great pilot program to get these solar setups in each of these small villages, of which there are over 74,000 in Thailand. Currently, solar generation in Thailand is about 550 megawatts from 194 solar farms. And the target, which I actually did discuss last week on the Going Green show, is 3,000 megawatts of renewable energy by 2020, of solar by 2020, under a national plan, which will end up with 25% of our total power supply from renewables. So that is good news. Would like to see it more here in Phuket. Would like to see electric cars. Would like to see more hybrids. And indeed the government with its eco car scheme, which is promoting small cars and energy efficient cars, would be wise to move that into the production of electric cars here in Thailand and make Thailand a world leader in the manufacture of those. I was on the phone earlier today with a buddy in Hong Kong who has a Tesla, and he was very proud that he hadn't been to a gas station in 9 months and had 11,000 kilometers on the clock. That's exactly what we need in Thailand. Maybe not such a luxury car, but we do need environmentally friendly vehicles. Okay, the newspaper's front page says Surin D-Day, which is an article about how all businesses on Surin Beach are about to receive a notification to remove all structures between the beach path and the sand. This is a drive to, in brackets, restore order following expansion of illegal encroachment and privatization of public areas. Those who fail to comply will face investigation and possible DSI action. With the arrival yesterday of a number of investigators and announcements up and down Phuket over the last 24 hours about influential people, about mafia, about attempts from Bangkok now to really strangle some of those illegal activities and to restore some order to Phuket, make it also competitive with other tourism destinations in the world, will all go a long way to supporting a more sustainable Phuket. Speaking of which, there's an editorial on page 8 on why we need to keep our sand clean and green. It's a very good piece. There's also on page 9 an opinion from one of the writers on giving fishermen a waste management education, something we've been talking about in the first hour of this show. Also on the opinion side, kudos to Kamala on setting up full-time beach cleaners. That full story is on page 4 of the Life section. And indeed, Kamala Beach Orbiter started last week the island's first full-time beach cleaners. There are 2 people full-time. It was initiated by local NGO Seek and was actioned by the Kamala Green Club that raised the money from all local businesses, including Paressa, Cape Sienna, Aquamarine, Andara, Swiss Hotel, Sunwing, the list goes on, and also with a local environmental group within the Orbiter's office in Kamala called Nevnet, Nevnet. It's a wonderful lady over there called Nui, who is a very keen recycler. And so with the Kamala Green Club, they've now put 9 recycling stations in place, upcycling plastic, glass, and we're now in discussions with people like 7-Eleven, for example, to use Kamala as a pilot program for recycling stations. In the discussion I had with 7-Eleven, they said it would be wonderful if we could use Kamala as a pilot program for their 5 shops, and then turned around and said, well, hopefully then you can help us with the other 7,800. Indeed we can. Local businesses in Kamala raised about 90,000 baht to pay for the cleaners through to high season, plus some extra recycling stations and litter signage. They'll be using the Magic Eyes campaign. So very well done to the Kamala Green Club and Kunui from Nevnet. And they will be involved with the beach clean on Tuesday. So you can go down to Kamala Beach from 4:30, pick a spot, any spot, and give them some hand. looking at society. Every week when we do look at the newspaper, we actually use a compass approach. The Atkinson, which is a Swedish-based sustainability group, plan a sustainable future using a compass of indicators or programs that fall under the four corners of a compass. N is for nature, north is for nature. Then we have E for economy, of which there's not much news this week. S for society, and let's take a look at the society news. On page 4, a Tourism Assistance Centre has opened in Phuket town. It's the second on Phuket. There is one now, and the TAC is a TAC, Tourism Assistance Centre, in the airport. And indeed, if you do need tourism help, there's a new number to call. It's 076 327 100. 076 327 100. You can find that in the newspaper on page 4. Also on page 13, talking about society, Jeddah Marriott, a GM, and one of our friends, Tony Padroni, has joined Outrigger Laguna as the GM. Tony is a very active supporter of a Green Phuket and a very welcome addition to the Bangtao Green Club. On page 5, the Red Cross gets a new bus. That's been very kindly donated by Siam Commercial Bank. Well done. And on page 5, an article on well-being where another tourist unfortunately died this week at Caron Beach, bringing the toll up to, I think it's 6 deaths this year. We're going into a third or fourth year where we have permanent lifeguards on all West Coast beaches. It is making a massive difference, but the undercurrents are particularly strong at this time of the year. The seas are dangerous, and we do urge all of you listening to seek the advice of the lifeguard on the beach. Just pop down there and say hi. Just ask them, is there a safe place to swim? And they'll direct you to the flags and to an area that is patrolled. So be careful out there in the oceans. This will continue through to November, maybe October, when the sea flattens and the monsoons change. Stay tuned. Nick Anthony, Going Green, show number 85. I'll be back in just a moment.
Live 89.5, your island, your station.
Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I hope you had a great show. It's been a busy one, and thanks to Kerry Leach for joining us in the studio to tell us about the Go Eco event on Tuesday. Just to recap on that, we've got 14 dive boats, over 500 divers. There's going to be around 2,000 volunteers going out to Ratcha Yai, Ratcha Noi and Coral Island, as well as all green clubs up and down the west coast of Phuket are getting involved in a massive beach cleaning day on Tuesday to honour the Queen's birthday. That's really a fantastic event. There'll probably be in excess of 1,000 people. The data will be collected using ICC data cards, and that information sent over to Project Aware, which have an international program tracking data on beach garbage in particular and underwater garbage all over the world. By tracking the data, we're able to track the source, and by tracking the source, we're able to tackle the source and hopefully stop the litter and the marine debris that's finding its way into our oceans. Do stay tuned now this afternoon and over the weekend. We've got a great program lineup coming up. Up next will be Best at Breakfast with Sam and Kirsty. For those of you who are not up at 7 a.m. in the morning and can enjoy the wit of both of their comments, it does get me laughing over breakfast. You can hear snippets from that between now and 6 p.m. There's a new show, which is the Asia Pop 40, from 6 until 9 p.m. tonight. And then we've got Saturday Night Fever, taking you through from 9 till 12. You have overnight music, followed by a repeat of that Asia Pop 40 in the morning, 9 till 12. And then we'll have Jason coming on with Weekend Brunch. That's from 12 until 3. Some very chill tunes, some great stories, and a good laugh also from Jason. And that'll be followed by a repeat of the Phuket News Radio. That's a summary of the stories that are in this weekend's edition of the Phuket News. That's from 3 till 4. 2 shows in the evening, winding down your week. Mellow Moments with Andy Saunders from 4 till 6. And Sunday Night Chill, a program that takes us through till 9 p.m. on Sunday evening. It's a great show and sets you up for a nice busy week, mellows you out. So stay tuned on here at 89.5. Thanks for listening live. We will try to get the podcast up online as quickly as possible. So if you missed anything, you can come back and take a listen. But otherwise, I'll talk to you next Saturday. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe out there on the roads. There is rain forecast over the next couple, but we do hope the sun is shining and it clears for Tuesday. And like I said before, be careful out there in the oceans. I did a beach check this morning. Heavy waves, strong rips, red flags. So swim with care.